Hi guys, good afternoon. My name is Sandy Rivera. I'm with Texas Children's Hospital, and my colleague Elizabeth Peña will be joining us as well. And we're going to talk to you about helmet safety and proper usage of helmets. We'll talk about how to measure kids for helmets, how to make sure that they're fitting properly, that they're in good shape, and all of that stuff. So a little bit about us. We both work at Texas Children's Hospital, which is the lead agency for Safe Kids Greater Houston. Through that, we have a grant with the Texas Department of Transportation, where we do bike and pedestrian safety in the community. We do a lot of events, mostly with children out in the schools, with different community organizations, and we also do presentations in the school to talk about bike and pedestrian safety and how to make sure kids are staying safe on their way to and from school. And then aside from that, we also do community events. So walk to school days, bike to school days, and bike rodeos, where we typically measure and fit kids for helmets and distribute helmets as a part of our grant. Elizabeth will talk to you a little bit about helmet usage, and then we're going to do a little demo for you so we can make sure you guys are trained and ready to go to measure and fit kids for helmets appropriately in your community. So our first slide, whenever you're ready, Elizabeth.
I am. Good afternoon. As Asani said, my name is Elizabeth Peña. We work together for the Injury Prevention Texas Children's Hospital. And it's a fact that 85% of kids' head injury can be prevented by a properly fitted helmet. The CDC says that while there is not conclusion-proof helmet, a bike helmet can help protect your child or teen from a serious brain and head injury. The information in this presentation will help you to learn what to look for and what to avoid when picking out a helmet for your child and teen. Buying a bike helmet is not enough, of course. We have to make sure that our children actually wear them. The challenge isn't often buying the helmet. It's getting that the helmet in every time and fitting it properly. So sometimes if your child sometimes don't understand and they don't know the importance of the helmet, it's important that we understand that we need to find the right one and the one that fit to the head of the children.
Perfect. Thank you, Elizabeth. So it's important to note that helmets are one-time products only. So while kids can wear helmets multiple times, they're only tested to respond to a crash one time. So a little tip we like to ask parents and kids when we're out at events is making sure if they brought a helmet, ask the parents if they've ever fallen, if that helmet has ever needed to do its job. If it has, it's time to trade out that helmet. It's no longer good. So that foam shell is there to absorb that impact. It's only going to do that once. So it's not going to do that multiple times. After a child has fallen or had the helmet either cracked or damaged, it's time to replace that helmet. So the bike helmet is only designed to prevent bike injuries. That's it. It's not designed to protect any other injury. Obviously, it's just, if worn properly, protects the brain. But a main issue is that it's often not worn properly. The helmet pads are great, and most of the time helmets bring extra padding in case they fall off or you need extras. They're great for comfort, and they also make sure that it's nice and snug. It keeps it nice and tight for these kids. Bicycle helmets, again, are sold in the U.S. They have to meet the standards issued by the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. You'll see that inside the helmet. If you can see my cursor right here where the sticker tag is, that's where it'll be certified that it actually met those regulations. You have to make sure you fit your helmet right every single time. So like Elizabeth said, you might wear a helmet correctly. You might wear a helmet, it might not be correct on the child. So these are 3 rules that are easy to follow for kids, and we'll go over this later as well in the demo. So you want it to be 2 fingers above your eyebrows. You want the straps to form a letter V under your ears, under both ears, and you want at least 1 finger between the strap and the chin, so they're able to tuck one finger in there. But this one finger rule, you'll see mentioned a couple different ways. So you can kind of pick which way you educate parents and children on it. We like to say that kids can open their mouth and the chin strap should be nice and snug. So you'll see that in our presentation at the end as well. Some tips from Safe Kids. So Safe Kids Greater Houston is a part of the larger Safe Kids Worldwide. They suggest these 3 rules. This is what we go off of. You want to make sure kids know eyes, ears, mouth. When we go to schools, we educate this way. We tell them, always remember eyes, ears, mouth. And you test them a couple times. Like, what was I asking you to remember? Eyes, ears, and mouth. Always. The eyes rule, you want the kiddos to put their helmet on their head. They'll look up and they should see the bottom rim of that helmet. Another way to do that is for them to put 2 fingers above their eyebrow, and they'll be able to make sure that it's in the right position. That's how you make sure the helmet is in the right spot and it's protecting every important part of the brain. The ears rule, you want to make sure the straps form a letter V under your ears, and that is to make sure that the helmet is not sliding around. It's going to stay put in the spot where you placed it. The last rule is the mouth rule. The child should be able to open their mouth as wide as they can. They say a big ah like they're at the dentist, and the helmet should be nice and snug. If you see that strap moving around, that's when you'll want to adjust and tighten that strap. So consider this. These are a couple of things that can go wrong when you're wearing a helmet. Obviously for this first one, people know you're not going to wear your helmet like that, right? But the second one looks mostly right. The only thing that's really wrong with it is it's inclined up. You actually want your helmet to be leveled to the ground. So that's why a couple of these are wrong. This helmet is too big for this child. This one's obviously too small. And you'll be able to know how to properly measure and fit a helmet, not based off of a child's age, but based off of a child's circumference of their head, which is very important. Some other bike safety tips while we're talking about it: you can't only just wear a helmet and expect everything to go perfect. You also have to do a couple of other things. We encourage bright colored clothing always to make sure that these kiddos are seen by cars and pedestrians. Make sure they're not wearing headphones. That's big now, especially with adolescents. They're out there riding their bikes. A lot of the time they have headphones on. We don't want that. We want them to be able to focus and listen for cars, see if they're coming up behind them. All bikes should have reflectors, so that one's in there as well. You want them to keep both hands on their handlebars and stay hydrated always, especially in the Texas heat. Okay, so how do we find the right size? First, we're going to show you how to measure the circumference of a child's head. So Elizabeth has a demo that she's going to show us with, and we'll get started on the next slide, but this is what we're going to be going through. We're going to measure the head. We're going to make sure it's 2 fingers above the eyebrow. We're going to look at the back to make sure we tighten that up. We're going to check the straps to make sure we follow the ears rule. And then we're going to make sure we follow the mouth rule. Number 6 is having the child shake their head. And when they do that, it should be nice and snug as a baseball cap, so where it's not going to fall off. Okay. Elizabeth, are you ready for the demo?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So first we're going to inspect the helmet. So you're going to look inside the helmet. There should be a sticker in there. That rule says check the stickers. So you're going to check inside the helmet that there's a sticker present. If there's an expiration date, that's what you're looking for. Yes, helmets do expire. A lot of the time, the sticker might be a little faded. You might not be able to see well, but if you can see it and it's expired, it's definitely time to replace it. Especially with the Texas heat, with that plastic and that foam, it's not going to react the way you want it to. So they're only made to last a certain amount of time. Make sure you check those stickers. You're going to inspect the helmet. So when you take it in your hand, you're going to touch around, make sure there's no cracks and no dents in it. If you can push it in, there's a little squishy spot or it's dented, that helmet has already done its job. And like we mentioned at the beginning, you're not going to be able to use that helmet effectively. So it's not going to do its job again, right? You want to make sure it's not cracked, there's no dents or dimples in it. You want to make sure all the padding is there on the inside as well. So on the inside of the helmet, there's a bunch of pads. Most of the time they're Velcro, they can come off. You want to make sure those are all in there. It's going to make it more comfortable for the child, and it's also going to make sure it's nice and as snug as possible. Lastly, we'll talk about assembling your helmet. Sometimes helmets come without the visor. So if you'll show the front part, Elizabeth, of the visor, the helmet, when you see that front part, sometimes you have to push that in to the helmet. There's little circles and little holes, so make sure that they normally come inside that helmet. You might have to put it together, so make sure you put that at the front of the helmet. And a good way to remember to do that is to then show the child and tell them, this is the front of the helmet. The visor is going to protect you from the sun, so you know which side is the front, always. Okay, Elizabeth, are you ready to measure? So we're going to measure the circumference of our demo's head. So this is Bruce. He's going to get his head measured. So Elizabeth has a tape measure, and you guys will have these as well. You want to make sure you measure every kid for a helmet to make sure we're giving them the proper size. So she's going to start right there in the middle of the head, and she's going to work all the way around, measuring the circumference at the crown of the child's head. So she's going to give us in centimeters a measurement.
22.
42?
22.
22. Oh, that's inches. Okay. So then you'll compare that with the inside of the helmet. There will be a sticker inside the helmet that tells you inches and centimeters what the circumference is. So if you look inside the helmet, do you think you can show that to us, Elizabeth?
Sorry.
No worries. Typically, some helmets will say this helmet is appropriate for 5 to 8-year-olds or 7 to 9-year-olds, things like that. Don't get persuaded by those numbers. Those numbers are really just an average. If you want to get a really good measurement, you want to make sure you do this kind of measurement. You look at the centimeters and you get the appropriate helmet. So inside that helmet, there is a sticker. It's going to say, do you see it, Elizabeth?
54 to 58. 54 to 58.
54 to 58. So
yeah,
it's
and then I checked on this in the centimeter, it was 54.
Okay, perfect. So it's 54 centimeters that the child's head measured. So you can use the helmet that says 54 to 58 centimeters. That one will work perfectly. Typically you'll have, if we're doing helmet distributions together, the helmets that we use, you'll have either extra small, small, medium, large, or extra large boxes of helmets. So you'll have to double check those stickers to make sure what the centimeter measurement of those helmets are. You can write those on the outside of the boxes and then make sure you're taking the ones that are appropriate for the measurements that you got. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and put the helmet on. So Bruce is gonna get that helmet put on. Again, you wanna make sure you do either the eyes rule, the child's looking up and looking at the rim of the helmet, and the 2-finger rule, where you're putting 2 fingers above their eyebrow. So you ask them to find their eyebrow, put 2 fingers above their eyebrow, and their helmet will touch right on the top, just like Elizabeth is showing right there. So the helmet is showing 2 fingers above the eyebrow line. So it's in the right spot. It's going to be parallel to the ground. So you follow the eyes rule. That's the first one, and we're done with that one. The next one is the ears rule. So if you can turn him over, this is a good chance for you to interact with the child that you're measuring. You'll ask them to put a V on the side of their ear to make sure it lines up with both straps. So you want each side to make a letter V, just like Elizabeth is showing, right underneath the earlobe. You make a V with your index and middle fingers, just like this, on both sides of your ears. Perfect. The last rule is the mouth rule. So this one is the tricky one where sometimes people leave it too loose, they might do it too snug. So you want to make sure your straps are ready to go. They're nice and straight all the way down, so it's easy to manage. Then you're going to make sure it can buckle, of course, and their kid is going to say a big ah. Obviously, our demo is not going to say a big ah, so you can go ahead and buckle it and show us. You have to make sure it clicks, right? So this is something else that we reinforce with the kids. We always tell them, listen for that click. If it's not clicked, it's like you didn't even wear a helmet. There it was. I heard that. So it clicked, right? So it's nice and clicked. It's straight. Make sure that it's parallel to the ground. So can you show us, Bruce, will you lift him up a little bit, Elizabeth? So you can see him. There he is. Perfect. Okay. So it looks good. So she followed all 3 rules. And then he said a big ah, so she was able to make sure it was nice and snug. There you go. So those are the 3 rules, and that way you know you have the perfect fit with the helmet. The last thing you'll ask the child to do is make sure that they shake their head. That's always the fun part, right? They're able to shake their head. It should fit like a baseball cap. It shouldn't move at all, okay? It shouldn't move in either direction. You want it to stay put. Good job, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for your help. Okay, so that was it for our introduction on helmet safety and how to measure and fit a child for a helmet. Here are a couple more resources you can look at. You can also look at our website, safekidsgreaterhouston.org. That has a lot of information as well that you're able to share with both parents and children. And it's also bilingual information offered there as well, so English and Spanish. Did you want to add anything, Elizabeth?
No, just be safe.
Yes, be safe and wear a helmet. Encourage all these kids to wear a helmet and their parents too.
Yeah, now that people are in quarantine, that they're doing more exercise and they're just using more their bikes, making sure that they wear their helmets. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this was helpful for you. We hope to see you soon, hopefully at an event, hopefully distributing helmets. Thank you again for everything that y'all are doing, and good luck.